Today's episode is a really special one because I am joined by June Hogan, who has been part of my Next Level Mastermind. June's story is one I know that will resonate with so many of you. I could honestly listen to this episode all day because she shares so many gems. She honestly shares about starting her business with no network, earning just £200 in her first 6 months, and the lessons she has learned along the way to building a hugely successful business now 6 years in. What I loved most about our conversation is how clear and grounded June has become in her niche and how her business truly reflects her values and everything she stands for. If you have ever wondered whether specializing is worth it, or if you have moments of doubt of whether to keep going, this episode will give you both inspiration and reassurance. Hi, June. I'm so excited you've agreed to reflect on your journey with me. You've been in my Next Level Mastermind, which has been an absolute joy. And I'm excited today to reflect on your business growth journey to date. So please share a bit about you.
Oh, thanks, Jo. Yeah, it's really nice to be here talking about this. So I'm June Hogan and I specialise in outplacement support, working with values-led organisations who want to do the right thing and support people who are leaving as a result of redundancies. But I didn't always do that. I've been doing this for the past 6 years. Before that, I had a corporate career in HR, so a generalist career in HR. And during that time, I was made redundant a couple of times along the way. And I also had to manage redundancy programs. I never thought that I would be doing this. I never wanted to be a business owner. It wasn't anything on my bucket list. And I certainly didn't think I'd be specialising in what I do now. My kind of corporate background, my personal experience of redundancy, and then my coaching qualification, which I undertook back in 2017, all those things kind of combined and helped me to decide that this is something I wanted to specialise in back in 2019.
Yeah, totally. And so you joined my program well into your business growth. So I would love to first start by thinking back to when you first started your business and how you felt then and how that initial growth was, because I think a lot of my podcast listeners are in the early stages and it feels really hard. And what I found really interesting when we had a mastermind call, and I think I said to everyone, how much did you earn within your first 6 months of business? And we all laughed out loud, and you had your specific figure to mind of exactly how much you earned. So please reflect back on where you were when you started your business and tell us more about those early stages.
Yeah, so I had returned to the UK from a 3-year career break overseas. My family and I, we went to North America with my husband's job. That was back in 2015. And I couldn't work during that time. I didn't have a working visa. So I decided to train to become a coach. And that was really when the whole idea of, well, maybe when we go back to the UK, I could turn this into business. But it wasn't something that I was completely committed to, because when we returned to the UK, I didn't have a job. I was kind of organising the children, organising everyone else's lives. And when everyone kind of got settled back in, I suddenly kind of sat there and thought, I have no idea how to start a business, how to run a business, what to even do. And so I carried on applying for proper jobs, as I might call them. But my heart wasn't really in that because I wanted to work flexibly, because I'd always worked flexibly since my eldest son was born. At the time, he was 14. So I wasn't really prepared to give that up and thought, well, after all those years of working part-time, why would you go back to work full-time now? So that was a real driver at the time. My kids are older now and they couldn't care what hours I worked really. But at the time, they were younger and it made sense. When I then kind of decided, never stop thinking about getting a job, you've got to think about one or the other. So I decided to put all my efforts into thinking about starting a business. I was hugely naive about what that meant. I didn't know anyone who'd done anything like this. There weren't the programs like yours and other people's that are around at the moment to help people. And I didn't have a budget to invest in anything. I hadn't worked for 3 years, which was significant. So it wasn't a great time to think about starting a business. And I remember my husband said, right, well, we've got 6 months. We've got 6 months for you to, earn some money. And to your point, that I earned £200 in the 6th month. Probably wasn't quite what my husband was thinking that we would do, but I said, I did it. I earned that £200. That was kind of like my first client. So those first 6 months, they were just very confusing for me. I didn't really have any focus. I was a coach. And as we know, everyone's a coach. And I just assumed that people would find me, that people would know, that people I used to work with. And that network was relatively small. I wasn't on social media. So my network wasn't even cold. It was like frozen. It was nothing. So those early months were difficult. And I look back now and think, well, I know so much now that I didn't know then. That contributed to that feeling of not really knowing where I was heading.
And so tell us about what you've learned. What do you know now that you wish you'd known then?
Oh, crikey, what have I learned? So back in those early days, I didn't realise that, I was going to have to be the marketing director, the finance director, the CEO, responsible for everything. And I underestimated what it meant to be visible. And so I went onto LinkedIn and I didn't have a social media profile anywhere. So that was my first kind of dip into social media. And I realized that when I decided to niche, when I decided to specialize in outplacement support and no longer just be a coach, that was the turning point for my business. And I remember changing my LinkedIn profile with my headline and everything to sort of reflect what I was doing. And we were on holiday and I got this phone call from someone who said, "Oh, I see on LinkedIn that you provide outplacement support." I was like completely just dumbfounded, going, "Oh, yes, that's what I do." And that was my first client because I'd been specific about what I was doing and who I was helping. So that for me changed everything. I know you're a big fan of niching. There's different views on niching. I totally get it. And I understand the different perspectives. But for me, that changed my business completely because I was known for solving a problem. I knew whose problems I wanted to solve. I knew the audience I wanted to reach, and therefore it made writing content and connecting with people just a whole lot easier. So everything just fell into place and it felt like it wasn't quite so scattergun anymore. It was more focused. So that was one of the biggest learnings. And if I'd have known that when I first started out, that would have made a huge difference. But it took me about maybe like 9 months to figure that out, which looking back, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that took a long time. But when you're in it, and I had all the other stuff going on in my life, having returned from an overseas assignment, and that brings its own challenges. So yeah, there was a lot going on, but I think I could have done it a bit quicker.
Honestly, I don't think 9 months is bad for niching. I've worked with people maybe 8 years plus in their business who are still searching for their niche. So well done. And so you've built a really successful business over the past 6 years. Share more about what you feel like the key turning points were in building the success and the relationships you've got, given that you started from a zero LinkedIn network, which I didn't realize until now.
Yeah, so I think there's consistency, consistently showing up. So I consistently showed up on LinkedIn and I authentically showed up as well. It was sharing kind of insights and maybe my story and client stories, obviously protecting confidentiality, etc. But the consistency and also just knowing that people might not be actively looking at what you're doing. Don't be worried about likes and impressions and all of that craziness. But it's the consistency of showing up. And I think for me, one of the things that I will never do is let anyone else down. I've got a list of things to do that are there and I'll regularly let myself down, but I'll never let anyone else down. Once I'd put this idea of running a business out into the world, I had to keep going and I haven't stopped ever since. So I think that consistency is really important. And also knowing that you're not, certainly in my experience, your business isn't necessarily going to always be on this trajectory of growth. It's not just going to keep on growing. And if you have a good month, 1 month, then wonderful. But the nature of business, certainly with the work that I do, is it can go up and down. And to feel that's okay and to accept that, because when business goes quiet, and it still does now, I have quiet times. And in the quiet times, I'm now more readily able to say to myself, right, stick to the plan. You know what you're doing. You know, these things work, just keep going and don't kind of get spooked by it. So I think that's one of my biggest learnings. And again, over the years, I've never got spooked and I've never sort of thought, oh, that's a shiny thing over there. Maybe I'll go and do that instead. I've just stayed in my lane and just kept going. So I think that's something which, yeah, with going back to the niching, I suppose, I've got a clear idea and a clear direction. So that's important.
Oh, it really is. People go, I'm multi-passionate. It's like, that's okay. But if your priority is to earn an income, then you might want to focus on one thing to start and then expand from there. It's amazing that you stuck with it, because I think the problem is if you're constantly reinventing, you're basically starting your business from scratch every month.
Yeah. Oh, that would just be exhausting. And that notion of social media does this in terms of don't compare yourself to others. It's nice to know what other people are doing, don't get me wrong, but it's not about that comparison, because as we all know, the piece that you see on social media is just the shiny things and not everything that goes on behind the scenes. I've never wanted to compete with some of the bigger outplacement providers. I know what they do. It would be foolish for me to sit in a hole and pretend that I don't look at competitors. I do. I think that's important for business, but I don't look at them with the view to, I must be more like them. It's just about having that awareness as opposed to comparison.
Yeah, love it. And so when you joined the Next Level Mastermind, tell us more about what was going on for you at that time and why you chose to join.
Running a business can be lonely. And again, you see the post, particularly at the moment, it's like, I'm on the beach or I'm having all this great fun. And yes, there are benefits to running a business. One of the downsides is that it can be lonely. And I'd followed you for a while and we'd had interactions, hadn't we? And when I saw the mastermind, I was really drawn to the idea of finding that tribe or finding another tribe. We all have different tribes, don't we? And so for me, that opportunity to interact with other business owners on a similar journey, doing different things, but on a similar journey, and feeling like you can share those things as a business owner with people who get it. Because when you're working with clients, clearly you're working and you're not going to share with them. When you're working with associates or other people that work for you, you're the boss kind of thing, aren't you? So there's not an opportunity to do that then. And of course, I have friends and fellow coaches and we interact, and that's lovely. And I appreciate their support. But for me, the Business Mastermind was an opportunity to really have that safe space with other business owners, and also to have the ability to share ideas and bounce ideas and get inspiration, which I found hugely beneficial. Because again, you can kind of sit at your desk, well, I do some days, and I think, what am I supposed to be doing today? And you have to be hugely self-motivated and look to yourself for inspiration. You're kind of the source of inspiration. So that was really what I was looking for.
Yeah, I love it. Totally agree with all of it. What was most useful for you from the mastermind?
I launched my podcast during the mastermind, and I know that I wouldn't have done that as quickly if I hadn't have had the accountability within the program. Because again, I'd announced that to you guys, right, I'm going to launch on whatever date it was. And I knew that I had you guys kind of checking in, going, how are things going with the podcast? So the accountability, the generosity of fellow business owners who've been through something similar. But the fact that we're all coaches is one of the things that I loved, because as a coach, we all have that curiosity. We all have that ability to support others and to just hold that space. It wasn't about if you shared something, somebody would jump in and go, oh, you should do it like this because I've done it that way. It was just that gentle support and offering perspectives, observations, ideas, challenge. Because when you're with coaches, I think that just comes naturally. And so that I really appreciated that, and the space that you created for us all in being able to do that, whether that's online or in person, and also knowing that you were there for support as well, whether it be on the Slack group or whether connecting on a one-to-one.
Yeah, totally. And excited you're continuing on in the mastermind. I can't wait to get back to it in September. So tell us what's next for you and your business growth.
So I've got season 2 of the podcast coming out. So that's coming out in September. So I've been interviewing some guests to get different perspectives on redundancy, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with my audience. In terms of business growth, looking ahead, the last quarter of the year can be challenging for businesses. Traditionally, it's been quite a busy time for outplacement, unfortunately, because we're heading to the year end. So it's really making sure that I'm positioned for that. And I've also got some new materials and resources that I'm looking at launching. And I'm also looking at doing a video-based lead magnet, which, if you know me, video is my nemesis. But I think that the idea that I've got could really help people who are planning redundancies. I would love to think that people were downloading that and then maybe playing me to their line managers to help set them up for success in managing those consultations. So a few things in the fire, but fundamentally just making sure that we're ready for what could be a busy time.
Yeah, love it. So we talked a lot in the beginning about how your business started and what it looked like 6 months in. Tell us what it looks like now, 6 years in.
Oh, wow. Yeah, 6 years in. I was thinking about it because my business birthday is the 1st of September. It normally involves some sort of cake and obviously a post on LinkedIn because everyone likes cake. So I shall be doing that. And also the opportunity to reflect, because when I was employed, I didn't really count my anniversaries or know how long I'd been somewhere. But each year as a business owner feels like such an achievement. And so I do reflect on that. And I do think to myself, 6 years, that is an achievement. And then you just carry on as you do. So I want to take some time to reflect. But the business now, it feels like a business. I've got systems in place. There's a structure to what I do. I've got clients who will return when they're making restructures. Some I won't hear from for years. Some will come back with 1 or 2 people. Some will have restructures that are sizable. So I feel like I've got that network there of people who've worked with me. It's lovely to have people who've worked with me supporting me on social media and making recommendations. That's always so valued and really appreciated. So it feels like a business that I know what I'm doing, and I feel like offering value to my audience as well is something that I enjoy. So I was just working on another one of our lunch and learns before we came on the call, for example. I do those every month, show up for an hour, offer some value, offer some support to the HR community. So it feels like I've got lots of things in place. And the reason why I'm continuing with the Mastermind is because I'm sure there are other things that I could be doing and things I could be doing differently or improving. And that's one of the benefits of being in that kind of group. So yeah, looking forward to what year 7 brings. Oh, yes, year 7, yeah.
Totally. And you hired your first team member.
Yes, I've got my lovely niece who's working for me. So she does some VA work for me, which is fantastic. And yes, giving that work to someone else really makes you realise how you can improve things and streamline things. And my associate team are hugely important to me, help me to deliver the work out into organisations. So I think between us, yeah, we do make a good team. And I guess reflecting on that over the 6 years, I've found people who I know share my values and who I know are hugely passionate about this work as well. And that makes a big difference for us to be able to go out into organisations as a team and support people on a small or a large scale.
Thank you, June. You have built an amazing business. So what's one parting piece of advice you would give to a coach who's earlier on in their business journey?
I would say to really spend some time reflecting on the work you enjoy doing, the sorts of people that you want to help, and thinking about what really lights you up so that helps to guide your business. And that will make life easier if you can really narrow things down and focus on the kind of work you want to do, the kind of clients you want to attract, and the people that you want to support. And once you've got clear on that, just don't give up and just continue to show up and be consistent.
Love it. Thank you, June. I promise I didn't pay June to say that. Choose a niche and be consistent. The 2 things it takes to build a business. And I think from working with the Mastermind, it's the things that you notice so clearly is that we stick to the brief and you just keep doing it. Thank you. And I cannot wait to see what's next. I hope you loved hearing June's story. She is a huge inspiration. If you want to connect with her, you'll find her as June Hogan on LinkedIn, or her website is wildwoodcoaching.co.uk. If you know of anyone requiring outplacement services, then June is your person. Before we wrap up, I wanted to share a quick update. This episode was published at this time because my Next Level Mastermind starts next week, so it was due to be promoting that. But the Mastermind is now fully booked. I'm so excited to start working with my founding members and also new members joining the Next Level Mastermind. From this point on, places will be filled through the waitlist only as people leave and spaces become available. If you would like to be considered when a space opens, just email me the words Next Level Waitlist and I will let you know as soon as anything changes and a space becomes available. We can chat at that time to see if it's the right mastermind for you and the right time for you to join. My email is joanna@joannalotscoaching.com. So that's Joanna with an A and Lot with 2 T's, joanna@joannalotscoaching.com. Thank you for listening to today's episode. And like I say at the end of every episode, trust yourself, believe in yourself, and be the wise gardener who keeps on watering the seed. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Women in the Coaching Arena. I have a mass of free resources on my website, joannalotscoaching.com. That's Joanna with an A and Lot with 2 T's, joannalotscoaching.com. And I'll also put links in the show notes below. Let me know if you found this episode useful, share it with a friend, and leave me a review, and I will personally thank you for that. Remember to trust yourself, believe in yourself, and be the wise gardener who keeps on watering the seed. Get into the arena, dare greatly, and try.